the June version of our Citizens Advisory Board. We start with a call to order and a roll call. So Kevin Lyons, Chris Wood. Here. Mark Sassway, not here yet. Diane Becker. Here. Roxana Dunn, here. Okay. We'll open with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Alexis, why don't you do the honors tonight? No flag. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, we can't really move people. All right, we will open with general public comment. Is there anyone in the room who would like to do general public comment? All right, I will not go over the rules then. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Online, John Crockett. And John, let me see if I can unmute you. Hope I'm not being Alexandra and me tonight, so not that good. Okay, you're on, John.
No public comment, just looking forward to the presentation on the roundabout.
Oh, okay, wonderful. All right, Kathy Julian.
Yes, can you hear me? Just
Yes.
a short public comment. I did post something on Nextdoor recently about this on a federal level on the Senate, the reconciliation bill for the budget. There is reference to land sales and federal land sales. And there is a map that Outdoor Alliance has put out, and this map does show areas in and around Incline Village that could possibly be impacted by such federal land sales. And of course, the monies go into the federal coffers, not the state or county coffers. And those lands include pieces of property that are above Apollo, Jennifer, and Marlene going up the hillside, the mountainside, as well as areas, as near as I can tell, around Tamarack Lake off of 431, and in the stretch around Chickadee Ridge, where a lot of people do cross-country skiing. So I just want to make that known that those maps and that issue is at hand. So if people are interested, they should look into it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll move on then. We have Commissioner Hill is with us tonight. So why don't you hand her that microphone or push it her way? About one microphone short of what we've said.
There you go. All good.
All right, good.
Okay. Well, hello. It's great to see everyone here today. I just have a few updates for you. To Miss Julian's statements that the county is looking into this. We do have some concerns and also are giving input to our congressional offices about this land sell off potential and how it would affect Washoe County. And there's concerns about services and fire safety and all of those things. So we're working with our delegation on that. In addition, we're looking at pieces of that bill that would cut Medicaid and would create some severe consequences for the state of Nevada as well as the Washoe County. So we're looking into that and see as those amendments come in. I just have a quick update about the county. Sadly, Manager Brown is closing out his time at Washoe County, and his last day will be the 30th. And we have an interim county manager, Kate Thomas, and she actually sat on the TRPA board for the Secretary of State. So she's very familiar with Tahoe issues, and I'm really excited about the 6-month period when she will be interim because she's very familiar with all Tahoe issues and excited to engage. And then you'll hear from the roundabout team today, but I'm hoping that with some of the restructuring that we're going to be doing over the next few months in the interim before we hire a new manager, that we'll have more on the ground staff helping with projects in Tahoe like the Washoe Tahoe Transportation Plan, we put in a grant to the Safer Streets for All under the transportation, the Department of Transportation at the federal level for $1.3 million to invest in parts of that plan to help with Highway 28 and as well as connecting trails. As we all know, the trails aren't fully connected in town. So, oh, and then one more announcement I have to make. And I think Dave will be, our Assistant County Manager, Dave Slater, will be doing a presentation on this soon. But we are going to be doing a demonstration project on Lakeshore Boulevard and move fast bikes, e-bikes to the road. And you'll see, we'll be putting a lot of paint down that says Bike Boulevard. So the cars will share the roadway with the e-bikes, and hopefully the e-bikes will be off of the trails. The sheriff deputies are going to work with us about educating people as well as educating people who rent the e-bikes. But it's a demonstration project. We're going to see how it goes. And if it's something that's successful, we may look at implementing it in other parts of Incline. But I'd love to hear your input about how that goes in town, and you're going to be experiencing it more than I will. So let me know how that goes. So I'm happy to address any questions from the board or the public. That is a great question. I think in July is when the paint will start coming down. So this summer, and we will be informing the community with some press releases as well as doing a lot of social media education campaign on that.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, that's interesting. What is the fast bike in that case? Like 15, 20?
No, the way we termed it is in chapter, I think it's like 85, is a bike that is not out of control. I'm gonna look it up, the language. There's language. We didn't put a speed on it because it's hard to do speed tests on e-bikes, but it's essentially asking that really anyone on a bike get on the street and share the road with the vehicles. So we're also asking the vehicles to be patient and use Lakeshore only if they're ready to go very slow, which Lakeshore is 25 miles an hour. So they should want to do that anyway. So hopefully it will also slow down the traffic on Lakeshore Boulevard.
Excuse me, you need to.
Yeah, we have to get through the board and then we go to the public. Okay. Other questions?
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, so will this be a section of Tahoe Boulevard, or excuse me, Lakeshore Boulevard?
Yes, essentially where between the three beaches, because that's where we see the biggest traffic and the bigger concerns of the community.
So all the way out to Burnt Cedar and then finally to Incline?
Yes.
And by the Hyatt there? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Mhm.
Okay.
There's gonna be a lot of little markers. I think like 100.
And then there's people that park in those wonderful shoulders that exist right now. Is parking going to be accommodated with the lanes going between parked cars and cars on the road, or do we know?
Well, this is where it's a bike boulevard. So this is, there's one of these in Reno, if anyone has been on Riverside Drive. And that means the bike is allowed to ride in the middle of the road with the car, in front of the car. So they do not share the side of the road. They are in the lane. We were looking at doing some dedicated parking and doing a one-way on Lakeshore, at least in front of the two beaches near the Hyatt, but the community was not happy with that. And so we took that out of the plan because there was concern about that change, because we thought if we did it one way, we could reserve one of those lanes for parking, because as we all know, the parking is crazy during the summer there. But that was not something that we didn't hear great feedback when we went through all the plan. And I don't know if Diane remembers that, but that was part of the plan that was taken out.
By the way, in the board announcements, I have an update from Dave Solaro on all the transportation projects that they're doing this summer. So,
Right.
and that's one on the list. So we'll
Good.
come back to this in a little bit. All right, another question, Diane.
I'm gonna be really interested to hear how that experiment works, because whatever we do, I think we have to keep looking for some solution. It is too dangerous now that you have children. 9-year-olds are riding on e-bikes and they're not riding on 10 and 20 mile an hour ones. They have bigger ones. And we've got to figure out what to do to protect them from their parents, no, from themselves. From themselves, I should say, and also just, visitors and residents. So it would be something we hope that you'll really take some looks at the end of the summer, and maybe that we could, as a board, give you some.
I would love that.
recommendations. We've had several meetings with different people and staff, and nothing that we put in has really seemed to resonate with
Mhm.
anyone. But I know this isn't something that interests you, it's just from the past communication, so we would really look forward to speaking with you about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear your input, and it's a demonstration project, and, the sheriff deputies are, also worried about safety and people using that lane, because that's going to be an education for the vehicular traffic. But they think that it's a good thing to try, especially with the trail being so crowded in the summer. So it just feels like something worthwhile. We're gonna see how it goes.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'll just, Roxana from the cab, and we all remember to say our names, which none of us.
Sorry, I didn't do that.
Roxana from the cab. There's actually about 4 or 5 different things that are being done relative to e-bikes. And so I'll be listing those when we
Great.
get to the board updates.
Thank
and
you.
You'll get to see what's happening there.
We're gonna do a full web page on it too. So once that's published, I'll send that out to the cab as well.
From an education standpoint, they've done a really thorough job, I think. All right, questions from?
I guess got my follow-up question.
From the
Thanks,
board.
Roxanne. Yeah, so on the data side, you mentioned Kevin Lyons, the cab, not remembering this time. What are the pedestrian and bike counts that led to that being selected?
We did do pedestrian bike cancel. I do not have that information, but it's my understanding we did do that.
Okay. Who would have that?
I mean, you could try to do a public records request. I could ask Dave. I'm not sure where it would be kept. I think it would be under CSD.
Okay. And then when you reference like the community not being unhappy, what is that data? Like just people that come to meetings or something?
I hear from community in all sorts of ways. I hear from the community via email and phone calls and
So you-
at these meetings and at public comment, and I'll take it all. And I know that our deputies who are here on the ground also get a lot of feedback from the community, and they try to pass that on, and then seeing everyone at these meetings. So it's a mix of it all.
So you hear from individuals?
I do hear from
Yeah,
individuals.
lots of individuals, lots of requests,
Mhm.
but not like a community percentage of bikers or drivers or anything like that.
We did do specific outreach on the Washoe Tahoe transportation plan for this as well. So, and it was to specific populations.
I remember that. That was an open, unscientific survey though. So it still wouldn't be something you'd want to use the percentages on, just as a reminder. Let's see, bike counts, percentages from the community. Any other data that you collected that was interesting or that was helpful?
I mean, it's all in the Washoe Tahoe transportation plan, and we can, there's a lot of recommendations in there. Mainly I think people are concerned that we haven't completed the trail system. That's some safety issue. People are very concerned about whether we plow our trails, and we're still struggling with that as a county to figure out the resources for that. And when we plow, because by the time we come through and plow the trails, then all of the parking lots have put their snow on the trails, and it's nearly impossible for us to get through and plow it. So that is a big thing that came out of that. People are also concerned about e-bikes on trails. And so that's why we changed the chapter. We've been doing like 2 years of education. Now we're doing the demonstration project. If it doesn't go well, it's no big deal. The paint will disappear. But we're trying to see what we can do with low cost, because again, all the other recommendations are millions of dollars, and NDOT, as we all know, is the smallest DOT in the nation, smaller than Hawaii. I learned that fact. And so they just don't have a ton of capacity to do, these projects on 28 that we know need to happen to help with, safety, but we're gonna just continue to apply the grants and work on it.
Yeah, small experiments are great.
Yes.
Small, cheap. If you can do something small, fast, cheap, just do it. See what
Mhm.
happens.
Okay, so we will now open to public comment. So since we have a lot of newbies here tonight, and first of all, welcome. The protocol is you have to come up to the microphone so that people out online can also hear what you say. And you state your name for the minutes and try to keep your questions short. You theoretically, you direct your questions to the board, but we will deflect to Alexis when it's appropriate. So Millie, you want to come up?
Hi there, I'm Millie Sherman, and I just have a clarification question. You're talking about e-bikes for Bike Boulevard. Will it be open to regular bikes as well? Because I walk Lakeshore quite often. And, I walk Lakeshore quite often and the bikes come up behind you. And nobody says, like when you're skiing, they usually announce on your left, on your right, but the bike people don't. And the next thing you know, you're flailing because you don't know where they're coming from. So if the Bike Boulevard is going to be open to all bikes, I approve. Thank you.
And Alexis Hill, for the record, I will clarify, yes, all bikes. I think what I have heard from the community is they're very worried about e-bikes. And I worry if there's kids who are on a non-motorized bike, the sheriff's deputies aren't going to tell them to get on the road. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's approaching this with thoughtfulness, because I also have experienced that here and on Riverside Boulevard, which has that bike boulevard, and adults coming up behind you, you're thinking, why are you not in the street like bicycles are supposed to be, but also, that balance. So I think that it's going to be some trial and error and education, but yes, we hope everyone will feel safe enough and that Lakeshore will be monitored enough by the deputies that they can do that. So I'm glad that you understand the plight. Yes, absolutely.
Roxana Dunn, I'd like to make a comment here too. We basically have a generation of people coming in and suddenly getting back on bikes for the first time in 25 years. And they have not been brought up with the protocols that regular bicycle riders would know, such as bike coming up on your left and that sort of thing. So we have an education period to come through. We have all these kids on bikes whose parents never rode e-bikes, and so they don't know either. So that's part of what we're working against. And I think when you see some of the things that the county is planning to do this year, you'll see that there's a lot of emphasis on getting that messaging out. So it should be better. All right, another question here.
Just a safety question. I'm Stephen Ross from here in Incline Village, and my concern was by putting bikes and cars in the same area, have we thought about what happens when the cars begin to try to pass the bikes, going across the center line and going around them? I think has potential to create significant hazards for both the cars as well as the bicycles. Has there been an educational program or some way to try to teach our community how to deal with this plan?
That is a concern that the deputies certainly have. They don't want, Alexis Hill, for the record, they do not want vehicles passing cyclists. So it is a demonstration project. It is going to be a summer of education as well. And we are hoping people only drive on Lakeshore if that is their purpose, to do something on Lakeshore. Just in the same way Riverside Drive in Reno is not used by a lot of vehicles because people don't want to deal with a ton of bikes on that road. So I think it potentially could be a great solution and also reduce the speeds on Lakeshore Boulevard. So we'll see how it goes. Absolutely. And then Helen has something.
Okay, Helen.
Enough, Incline Village resident, thank you. I think a demonstration project is a really good idea. For the outreach, I would strongly recommend that the sheriff or somebody from someone with a lot of authority, talk to all the contractors that are working on Lake Shore. Because I walk on Lake Shore as well, and I notice that the residents, or looks like residents, Nevada plates, are pretty respectful. If there's someone that's speeding and driving a little bit recklessly, I hate to categorize, but a lot of times it's the contractor.
Okay,
So
that's a great.
that would be good. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, are there any more questions in the room? Online, Kathy Julian.
Hi, thank you. Alexis, appreciate this, but you had said that it's between the beaches. I do a lot of walking from Ski Beach to the intersection with uh, 28 and Lake Shore. So going towards the trail and Tunnel Creek area. And what I've observed, two things, is one, there's a lot of bicycle traffic there because a lot of the bikes go to Sand Harbor. And that's why the folks have rented the bikes to get to Sand Harbor and go along the trail. So will those, yeah, I understood from you that that area would not be covered by this trial period. And secondarily, following up on Helen's comment, I do note that it does seem to be the contractor trucks that seem to be going a little fast, especially when they're trying to get home after a day's work, going in that stretch from the Lone Eagle Grill, you know, where they're doing the improvements there, to Highway 28, going towards Sand Harbor, that's the stretch where they're going a little fast. So I would think that would be a good area to also have the bicycles, and to have something going on there. Thank you.
That's good, Alexis Hill, for the record. That's good input, and I am going to talk to Dave about that, because you're right, that if they could be going on Lake Shore all the way up to the East Shore Trail. So I'll follow up on that. Thank you.
Roxanna Dunn, one more comment on that, and that is that the bike rental at the Hyatt rents to a lot of families with little kids, and they like to put them on the actual path, not on the street. And so you probably need to talk with them a little bit to figure, basically, we don't have enough concrete to cover everybody's needs. And so, you know, that's a compromise, but you might pass that along.
I will.
Dave probably does know that, but yeah.
And the deputies have said that they are gonna do that to all the rental companies, because that's some of the work that needs to be done. Make sure that they know.
All right, excellent, thank you. Public safety updates. I don't see anybody here. Do we have a sheriff or fire department? Oh, too bad, because we had a very sad event this weekend. All right, so we will move on then to agenda item number 6, which is our presentation. So this is our presenter is Linda Offerdahl, who was one of the founders of the IVCBA, the Incline Village Crystal Bay Business Association.
Community and Business Association.
Business what?
Community and Business
Oh,
Association.
yes, I always put Crystal Bay in there and they don't.
No, it is in there.
Okay. And she was one of the founders and has been the executive director since, you said 2021, is that correct? So she's here to, first of all, give us a little overview on what the Main Street project is all about, and then to talk specifically about the plans for the roundabout. So thank you, Linda.
Roxana?
Alexandra has the presentation.
Yes, Alexandra, can you put up the presentation?
Roxana, yeah, before we get to the presentation, there were 2 individuals with their hands up, including Captain Felicia, to speak.
We don't see her.
Can't see them. Our board only shows us and Kathy Julian.
Okay. I'm not sure why, but
okay.
we do have Captain Galicia here,
Yeah.
as well as an individual who
sorry.
I believe
All
wanted to
right,
speak
so let
on.
We have it now. We have it. We have it now.
we have it now.
The gallery view.
Is that enough?
That's enough.
Here, I'll help you.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can. We can hear
yeah,
you.
go ahead, Amelia.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there with the glitches, but I didn't want you guys to think we didn't show up for you tonight. We are here. Captain Galicia with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and also on this meeting is Lieutenant Aaron Tracy. He is a newly promoted lieutenant who's been assigned as our new Incline lieutenant. The previous lieutenant, Joe Colacurcio, was recently promoted to captain and assigned to the Incline Village substation as the Incline captain. He is on vacation during this week, so that is why I'm here, and I've brought Lieutenant Aaron Tracy to virtually introduce him to you all. I will give some updates and then allow any questions. I know you guys had a pretty robust discussion about the e-bikes already, so I can answer any questions that there might still be. But for the sheriff's office, first of all, our goal crimes for the quarter. If you're not aware, the sheriff has set 4 specific goal crimes that we are focusing our attention on. Doesn't mean that we ignore any other type of cases. It just means that we pay a little bit of extra attention to these crimes as they're impacting our community the most. They are larceny and theft cases, burglary cases, driving under the influence cases, and then our weapons law violations. So any type of case that involves a weapon of some sort. So I am happy to report that on our burglary and larceny and theft cases, we are trending down in Incline Village for the first quarter of this year. The second quarter is going to end at the end of June. So by the next CAB meeting, we'll have some updated stats for our second quarter of 2025. But so far for the first quarter, we are down in burglary cases with 0 at the lake and down in theft cases with a total of 5. And our 3-year average is usually 9. On the other side of the coin, we have our driving under the influence, our DUI enforcement. I know I've spoken about this several times at previous CAB meetings, but we have really been proactive in our traffic enforcement and our enforcement of trying to take impaired drivers off of the roadways. And Incline Village has been absolutely skyrocketing with our DUI arrests. For the very first quarter, so January to March, we had 31 DUI arrests in Incline Village. So those were impaired drivers that our deputies located and found driving on the roadways and took them off the road. In comparison, hold your breath here, our 3-year average prior was only 4 for the very first quarter. So we are up by, I don't even know what that percentage is, like 300% or something, 400%. We're doing a really good job. The deputies are really doing a great job of making our roadways safer up there. And then our last goal crime is weapon law violations. And we are also trending up in this category, which you might think is a concern, but it's actually not when you think of when you look at it from the perspective of we are removing guns from, or other weapons, but primarily guns from the street that are being possessed in an unlawful manner. So that does make the streets safer because they're being possessed by ex-felons, they're being used in the commission of a crime, so they're being seized for evidence, or the person doesn't have a right to own or to possess that weapon in some other manner. So that's the update that I have for you on our goal crimes. We're also, as you all know, I'm sure, gearing up for the 4th of July upcoming holiday. And Lieutenant Colacurcio will be back in town, or correction, Captain now. Captain Colacurcio will be back in town and working that event, and we'll be at the parade, and excited for another hopefully successful holiday like we had last year up there. That's all I have specifically for you guys. Like I said, if there's any additional questions that I can answer about the e-bike stuff, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay, any questions from the board? Chris Wood?
Yeah, Chris Wood, thank you, Captain. So the weapons violations, these are felons carrying guns? What are the violations that allow you to possess the guns or repossess them or take them off the street?
Well, if they are being carried by an ex-felon, they are prohibited from being in possession of firearms.
Okay.
So that would be one of the cases where we would remove the gun from them and we would seize it as evidence. They can also be I use air quotes here, so you can't see it, but a law-abiding citizen for the most part when it comes to owning or possessing firearms. But if they use that firearm in commission of a crime, so if they commit an assault with a deadly weapon or a battery with a deadly weapon or some type of crime where they're using a gun, and they're being investigated or arrested for that crime, then the gun becomes evidence. So we remove that. So there's other illegal types of weapons like brass knuckles, nunchucks, like very obscure weapons that we don't see very often, but they are part of the law as well. If somebody commits an assault and they have a knife in their hand, that would be considered a weapons law violation. So for the first quarter, we took 2 cases of weapons law violations in Incline Village. Our 3-year average has only been 1. So we've doubled our cases for the first quarter.
Thank you.
All right, good. Kevin Lyons.
Yeah, Kevin Lyons with the CAP. Just a question. I was curious, what are the clearance rates on the larceny, theft, and burglary crimes up here?
What do you mean when you say clearance rate?
Clearance rates, meaning how many of them are solved and prosecuted successfully?
I don't have that data in front of me. I know that we've taken 5 cases. I'd have to go back and research each individual case and then be able to get you a disposition. If we make an arrest, then it's up to the district attorney if they move forward for prosecution. But without researching those 5 cases, I can't give you any data on that.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'd be more interested in a 3-year average because some of those cases will take, months to years to resolve. Do you have that data?
No, all I know for our 3-year average is that we took a total of 9 over the course of the 3 years. That's the average, but I don't have dispositions on those cases.
Okay. That would be a great thing to that's kind of the thing that people probably care about the most. So in future updates, that'd be a suggestion is to include that because ultimately that's how you get the full end-to-end data that we're going to be interested in, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
any other questions from the board here? Diane?
Captain Galicia, I'd like to thank you for increasing your enforcement on DUIs. And I'd also like to say that in the past, there have been requests for taking more seriously DUIs and also excessive speeding situations. And I think that there's some hesitancy because we don't want to make this an unfriendly place to either live or visit at giving people tickets. But there are several areas and streets where you see, especially on weekends and especially during high tourist seasons, tremendous speeding, unsafe driving, especially as the streets get slicker in the fall and winter. And I just hope that in the coming months that you'll look at that as well. The number of cars at Village and Country Club that end up spun out, that end up stalled because of the way they're driving is pretty frightening. And I think just for public safety, it would be something else to look at in the future.
Okay. All right, and I see that Mark Sasway, who is also on the board, has joined us. So Mark, you have a question for Captain Galicia.
No, I was just unmuted by Alexandria, just to let you know that I have been at this meeting from the beginning, but there just was no functionality, and it seemed only Kathy was recognized as being online. So thank you.
Okay, so we have you now in attendance, Seth. Thank you.
Yes, from the beginning.
All right, we're done with the board. Questions from in the room for Captain Galicia? Questions online? All right, thank you, Captain. Appreciate the update.
Roxana,
Was safe, yes.
I have Elise Fett with her hand up, as well as A. Tracy.
All right, so Alexandra, I'm just going to ask you because we're not seeing
Yeah, we do.
Well, now maybe we do, but we keep seeing a partial list. All right, so Elise Fett.
Hi. Sorry, I'm on my way there, but I wanted to not be in the middle of driving there and miss the opportunity to reply regarding the bike lanes. I am so excited about that. Thank you so much. I don't know if Alexis Hill is still there, but I'm so grateful. And regarding, a gentleman asked about cars trying to pass bikes, and I agree with Alexa, that's not an option. And the Lakeshore is 25 miles per hour. The e-bikes are definitely able to go 25, and most of them are. And a lot of the cyclists that are riding are going at least 20 miles per hour. And I think that there is, there has been a drive for a push for getting people to go slower on Lakeshore anyway. And when you see these lanes that are also shared with bikes, drivers already know even more so they need to slow down. And this is a win-win-win. This will take care of what the policemen are trying to do all the time. For a lot of people, they will just automatically slow down, or they just won't go down Lakeshore. If they're in a hurry, they stay on the highway. The other item that could happen is we could have a 3-foot wide green bike path on each side of Highway 28 eventually, hopefully. And then a lot of the bikes can be diverted that direction. I think, you know, whether it be road bikes that are going a faster speed or the e-bikes. And Country Club is another one that has enough width that we could add a 3-foot wide strip on each side. Or again, it's a 25 mile per hour road, just like Village. Village is a 25 mile per hour road. And so if people have e-bikes and they can be on the road, and we can put the bike warning for the people going in and out of the high school, we're desperately trying to get people slowed down on Village. They have huge signs, if you've seen, and police having to sit there every day. So it would be a win-win-win to do this. So I'm very excited about this trial. And I've been watching these green bike paths that are bright green on the sides of the roads. And I'm hoping we can do that on Highway 28 at minimum. And of course, we really, really need a commuter bike path that is not for walking. It's not it's commuter, it's for e-bikes, it's for road bikes above Highway 28, connecting Crystal Bay, Kings Beach, and Incline Village. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're finished with the questions for the
Roxana,
captain. Yes, Alexandra?
we also have A. Tracy online.
Who?
A. Tracy wishes to speak.
Hey, Tracy.
Bottom one, yeah.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I didn't see a hand up. I can see a Tracy, but I did not see a hand up on it.
That's okay. If you guys can hear me, I just want to introduce
Yes.
myself.
Please give your name.
My name is Aaron Tracy. I'm a lieutenant with the sheriff's office. Captain Galicia kind of introduced me a little bit. Just also wanted to kind of introduce myself to you guys and say I'm super excited about being up there as a new lieutenant. I'm working with Captain Cola Curcio, and I've worked up there in the past as a deputy, so I know a lot of the concerns of the community, and am super excited to get involved and be part of solutions. So thanks for having me.
Excellent, thank you. All right, and Elise, you can put your hand down, so we know we've taken care of you. By the way, you only get to ask one question per thing, so those are part of the rules. All right, now we are back to Linda, I can't even see her name now. Offerdahl, and all the glorious things I said about her before are still true.
Can I put this?
Alexandra, can you put her presentation up?
Yep, working on it now.
And then, are you gonna move the slides forward, Alexandra?
Yes, I can do that.
All right, so you might have to kind of guess about when to move the slides if I don't say anything, because I tend to just kind of start talking. But
Linda Opperdahl, Executive Director of the IBCBA. And we've never presented to the tab before, so I want to be sure you get the context of what the Main Street program is within the IBCBA. Next slide. So the original ICBA started back in 2009 in a time when we no longer had a Chamber of Commerce. We still had a newspaper, but by 2021, we did not. The Chamber of Commerce had been a very thriving, vibrant organization, but we needed something to support both the community and the businesses. And quite honestly, it was focused more on the businesses at that time. Well, fast forward to 2021, COVID hit and our community was in dire straits. Our businesses were failing, our citizens were having a hard time paying the rent. In general, there was just a very big time of unease for everybody. And in that milieu, IBCBA reformed our Business and Communities Association into the IBCBA, Incline Village, Crystal Bay, and then I always add Community and Business Association. And our goal was to build community and kind of knit that fabric of community back together so that we would have cohesiveness and sustainability for our community. So our vision is one that we hope everybody can get behind, and that's a thriving community. And we define that as one that supports and is supported by its residents, its agencies, its nonprofits, and its businesses. We have about 275 members, and that happened within about the first year, and I considered that a mandate for this kind of organization. Even though we have a membership, we don't think of ourselves as only representing a handful of people. We think of ourselves as representing the entire community. And indeed, our snapshot newsletter now is about 2,500 subscribers. So who knows how many other people still see that throughout the course of a week. Next slide, please. So really everything we're doing falls under these three strategic priorities. We address economic vitality by promoting all of the businesses, all of the agencies. We do this through our newsletter, the weekly snapshot. We have a seasonal magazine, and we have a community website, ibcba.org, which is famous for its calendar, which has everything on it. The business community has support through our mixers, through our membership program, various opportunities there. And then we also have a welcome bag that we hand out that's chock full of information about our businesses and about our nonprofits. So civic engagement is really a huge, and it really encompasses many of our activities, but probably the events are a big one. We provide that umbrella organization for local heroes for the 4th of July events, and also for Northern Lights in December. Now, that doesn't mean we are running all those events. It just means that we're bringing them together so that everything gets promoted properly. And many of these events have what we call a meet and greet. So there's an opportunity to interact for the nonprofits to meet the community and vice versa. Civic engagement also covers leadership kinds of things. And just recently, the Washoe County partnered with IBCBA to put on the first ever Washoe Tahoe Leadership Academy. And leadership academies are big in the North Shore, they're big down in Reno, but there was never one that really addressed Incline Village. So we had a cohort of 24 younger people interested in getting involved in our community and learning how our county works, how the agencies work. And they came together for a series of 5 sessions. Very, very successful, and I hope we can do it again. But we look at leadership in other ways too. So without any city government, we have a county down in Reno, and we have a GID, a General Improvement District, water, sewer, trash, recreation. And we've seen in the last 4 years that can be very narrowly defined. So very little support for the community in general. So we're kind of filling that niche in between government and the community. So we're a point of contact for the agencies. We get all their newsletters. We connect to them on our newsletter, and we communicate in various ways with the community. So in that gray area, there's a lot of community initiatives that we talk about. So workforce housing, workforce transportation, things like this that really nobody's really addressing. We're apolitical, we don't have authority, but we do meet and convene, and we try to get the issues in front of everybody. So under community initiatives, we've put the revitalization, the redevelopment of our community. Next slide, please. So in 2022, we joined Main Street, and that is a national organization, and they are working within small towns to revitalize their communities. And they have come up with a formula, if you will. They come up with a transformative strategies that encompass 4 main points. And this is the epitome. It embodies IVCBA. We organize the community. We help promote them. We have communications. We are focused on revitalization. And then the design component really is speaking to the planning and how do we go about doing this? Next slide, please. By the way, Washoe County signed that agreement to be a part of Main Street. They're definitely a partner. They supported us with an ARPA grant for the Main Street manager last year. They support us in various ways, but they are also a huge, important liaison for us and our community with all the other agencies. So Main Street Nevada brings a whole nother set of resources to us. There are regular meetings that put us in touch with other main streets around the state. But probably the biggest thing is access to state grants. So the county itself often does not have any funding for the kinds of things we're talking about, but there's state money for especially like rural development. Next slide, please. So we've been meeting since 2022. We're looking, I often hear, can we do something about our downtown? Where is our downtown? We want to help revitalize that commercial core. We looked at Kings Beach. They've managed to do some of that. Surely we can too. We'd like to have a more visually appealing town image. There's a lot of buildings that need work. Just simply looking at our town, it doesn't reflect the people or the kind of town that we really are. We could do better with that. And could we all align around some common goals? What are we famous for here? For disagreement. What does Incline want? That's a source of many people are trying to answer that question. Next slide, please. So the organization that of our Main Street, we partner with Washoe County, but we also partner with a local charitable organization. So IVCBA is not a C3. We take membership, we take money from members, some of which are very generous. We have investor level members. But now that we're looking at something like a roundabout, we need to have access to ways to be able to raise larger funds, and that would be through ITF. The Main Street organization itself, we consider every organization in Incline as one of the stakeholders, the service clubs, the nonprofits, to some extent, although they have their own separate community collaborative, but also the businesses, the agencies, everybody has a place in Main Street. And then getting at a lower level, we have an executive committee, and we have committees for each of the various things that we're trying to for our projects. Next slide, please. So we look at beautification as low-hanging fruit. So can we start out small with something that everybody could agree our town could use some beautification, and almost everybody agrees with that particular piece. So I'm really proud to say that this year Incline to Bloom is really blooming, and I hope you've seen the bus shelter pots, the hanging baskets in the shopping centers, and that's been supported by those business owners and the shopping center owners, as well as the service clubs in the case of Rotary. In general, we promote cleanup. of the community, like the village cleanup, the one that had the block party here a couple of weeks ago. But we're also working with some of our member landscape contractors to clean up some of the easements. So there's a lot of areas in town where it's no man's land, right? It belongs to NDOT, Washoe County, somebody else, and nobody feels responsible for it. So we're putting our foot out there, trying to help with some of, getting permission from the owner, of course, to help clean up some of those areas. And then beautification is our community decor. I hope you've enjoyed the holiday lighting. And if you want to hear a story about how hard it is, buy me a glass of wine some night and I'll tell you. And then the 4th of July, we're going to start decorating the parade route. We're going to put up those big flags on Main Street. And in the town, the shopping centers are already behind it, and we're moving along. Next slide, please. We started a public art committee, and we're starting slow because we want to get the right people on the committee. We don't want to just have a bunch of, oh, I think we should have a mural on the side of this building, but thoughtfully, what do we have right now? What could we use and what would help? How do we identify the symbols that really stand for Incline Village? And Miles, you've been a big part of some of those previous discussions of how could we do that. We're going to talk about the roundabout tonight, and then where we're headed is we'd like to see lampposts along Tahoe Boulevard, something that could hold signs that might allow us to get rid of some of the unsightly sandwich board signs and flags that dot our landscape. All right. Okay, Alexander, I think, is there any more? I think that's it. Alexander, can you go on to the roundabout presentation?
Yes, can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have more than that, right?
No, I just have the one page for the roundabout and this presentation. That was the last slide.
Oh, I sent you a whole presentation. I'm going to just speak from it then because this is the main event right here. But the roundabout, the history of the roundabout is this. It started with in 2012 with Jim Clark, Don Canar, a handful of people that said that that was a dangerous intersection at Mount Rose and Highway 28. So with a great deal of effort,
Linda, Roxana, you guys are muted.
All muted.
oh, sorry.
Okay,
think-
you're good to go now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So just to recap the history, back in 2012, a group of citizens formed a committee to actually put in that roundabout. The landscaping that was done was perennials. They look beautiful right now. Unfortunately, they did not put in irrigation. So after that bloom, we look at something that looks like a pile of weeds. This group of citizens wanted something more than just the landscaping on there. They wanted public art. And June Brown lived here for many years. She's a sculptor, very talented sculptor. And she created the bronze animals that are on that roundabout. Well, those animals were created life-size. Life-size is not big enough to actually appear on that roundabout. And I go by that roundabout every day, and it wasn't until I was standing on that roundabout that I realized there's a fish in the mouth of the biggest sculpture, the bear. So there's some issues with it. Those animals, they're an endangered species because there are regularly accidents in that roundabout. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I think there were 2 accidents in the same day, at the same time in that roundabout. So it doesn't quite have the visibility it should have. So after, I don't know, what, 10, 15 years, it's time to relook at what could make that roundabout better? What could it make it look like the gem of Washoe County? So why IVCBA? Well, 3 years ago, that that group of people that started the roundabout and had formed a public art committee isn't quite right, but they had created a nonprofit or a fund within Parasol so that they could raise money to maintain those sculptures. That was an aging population, and Jim Clark came to me and said, Linda, could you guys take this over? Could you be responsible for the maintenance of the roundabout? So we did. And Larry Wodarski, IPM, now cleans that up at no charge, well, once a year. Better than having the aging Rotarians out there with their little shovels. And we've looked at those animals, and we think perhaps they could find a better home. So with that, I'm going to turn this over now to, and I really apologize. I had no idea that she only got a piece of the presentation. But Christine, would you come up and speak to the kinds of changes we'd like to make? The committee, first of all, the public input for this committee, for this design actually came spring of 2024. We had Main Street meetings, we had focus groups, they were online, there were a couple in person. So we had the consensus, yes, something should be done and something could be done. And it was more along the lines of reflecting the natural beauty as opposed to, say, putting in a sculpture. After we had that input, we narrowed it down to a design committee. So rather than having a bunch of people that had opinions, but maybe not any expertise, our design committee consists of Steve Porton, who I think is online. Steve is a retired architect and affordable housing developer. Dale Smith, our local architect. And then Christine Karnofsky is our a local landscape design with her expertise. And then Mike LaFrancois is in the room, and he and Sanda are on the committee. They represent their engineering firm, LaFrancois Engineering. So we feel like we've got some good expertise now helping us to move forward. And a point of great satisfaction is that we had all of the agencies, so part of that feasibility was, we've had all of the agencies in person in the room. I'm talking about NDOT, TRPA, the county, and IVGID, all talking about the roundabout and agreeing that this was something that could actually happen. So now, Christine, would you come up here and explain what our concept is?
Christine Karnofsky. Thank you to the board and to everyone that's here. We're really excited to present to all of you this proposal for the improvement and upgrade of the roundabout. And we've been working on this for quite a while. We actually have a landscape architect, Lindsay Ellington, who has drawn up some ideas for us. And this is what we're looking at this point. And, you know, thinking about the roundabout, this is one of the gateways into Lake Tahoe, also Incline Village and the California side. So it's so important. It's like the entrance to your home in your front door, right? So you want it to be beautiful, you want it to be welcoming. And so this is what we've come up with, and would love to get your input on this. So if you're looking at the actual roundabout, the drawing, NDOT has requested that we have height, and they don't want cars to be able to see over into the other lane as you're going around in the circles, because it can create more of a hazard, a safety hazard. And we do, all roundabouts get run into at some point, right or left. Yeah. So what we've decided, what we've looked at and thought about and discussed for so long is how can we create that safety element and still have that, that beauty that we want to bring to our community. So the height, we're looking at the 3 conifers on the left, all different sizes, so it creates a more interest. And then on the right, we have some deciduous trees. In this case, it's showing aspens because that does represent Tahoe and the Sierras, the aspen groves. And we've also added large boulders that we want to integrate with the trees. And these large boulders hopefully will be some kind of deterrent for accidents. Maybe not deter the actual accident, but it would possibly stop someone in their car. So we're looking at large boulders, like 6-foot boulders, as the main ingredient in that center area. And then we can go down to some smaller boulders and create that understory with shrubs and color. And we want to also have consecutive blooming with the color. So something's happening all the time from the beginning, spring, awakening, through fall. And so the plants that we've chosen would have spring blooms, move into summer blooms, and then the fall color, which would carry over with the aspens, but also some of the native shrubs that we've chosen, and also the perennials that would bloom in the fall. And we are looking at doing all perennials along with the shrubs and trees because they come back every year. They die down in the winter and they come back from their roots in the spring. So there's some pictures on the right that show some of the plant material that we're looking at. And this is, and then also we've talked about possibly leaving the bear sculpture because it's large, and possibly the buck as well, but relocating the smaller animals that kind of disappear into the landscape anyway. So this is where we are with this, and would love to hear your feedback and get your opinions and any questions.
Mike LaFrancois, just to speak to the next phases.
Sure.
So yeah, I came on mainly to Mike LaFrancois, LaFrancois Engineering.
Thank you.
Linda asked me to help out here. I think what they've discovered is working with NDOT in particular, the process has been protracted and has been a stumbling block of sorts. So I have some history in working with NDOT, getting permits, and said, yeah, absolutely, it's something I can handle. So one of the issues they have here as well is utilities. There's interest in having water out there, irrigation, but and possibly power, permanent power, permanent water. Temporary water was entertained at one point, but that presents a safety issue. You're always refilling a tank. You have human beings out there. It's hazardous. There have been deaths in the area due to people working in the right of way. So I strongly was not a fan of that approach. So we've been working with Washoe County, who owns land on the corner there. I guess it's the that map is upside down, but I think it's the northeast corner. We have access to all utilities over there, either directly through Washoe County or from adjacent easements. So we're looking at some of the nuts and bolts on how to make this work, in addition to the beautiful plants, but ensure the longevity here. And then of course, getting us through NDOT, they will likely talk about the boulders and where we put them and safety. But at this point, they have been supportive without giving us too many details. So our next step really is to go to NDOT and TRPA with schematic designs and, take this to the next step.
And then just to finish up, our targeted date is to have this, have the approvals completed by May 1st, 2026. And then in my mind, there's a very narrow window, May and June, to get this finished before the 4th of July. So, yeah.
So starting on May 1st.
Well, that's a vision. Yeah. You know, I have I don't know if you can see that very well. I actually have a handout. And I will send the cab the full presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alexandra, we have this on the website, right?
Not yet.
Not yet, but we'll put it there. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Are you ready for questions?
I think so.
All right, so we start with the board. Diane.
So there are just 3 thoughts, and I think this is beautiful. But I want to give, my experience with aspens is that they go under the, whatever the cement or the roadwork is, and just.
Come on up here, Christine.
And I just want to say, if I were doing it, I would make sure that we don't have any issues. And I don't know if you have the way to cut it off. There's barriers that I have seen when I was in California put up for some tree roots. I don't know if that's unsafe. Let me go through my comments. My second one is on NDOT asking for height. I, especially if we have any opportunity, because I know to look at this, I'd like to see what it is, on what they base wanting the height, because on most of the circles, in fact, all over the world that I've been on, you can see across, and part of the safety is, when someone's coming in from the other side. And I just think, because sometimes you don't know, you could be working with one person. I think it would be really good if even maybe we could, as a cab, you could show it to us and the people. But on the other hand, I think it's beautiful. I think the height is beautiful. And I'm not even thinking the trees, because the trees you can see through. It's the boulders that I would just question. And the last thing is, on the boulders, are you able to source those locally? Or do we have to bring them up the hill, which would be an unbelievable expense? So I'm just wondering if there's a way to do that, because we do have that quarry here. So I didn't know if you could do that. I was just curious. Those are my 3 questions.
Well, I think Christine can speak to the Aspen question.
Christine Karnowski. Thank you, Diane.
You've done a beautiful job. This is very pretty.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Your first question about the aspens, which is a great question. And it certainly was one of my questions to the architect as well, because aspens create groves. We all know that. And we don't want 10 years down the road to have the roundabout as an aspen grove, right? So Lindsay said that they have a way of containing the roots, and that would be actually to contain them in plastic or some kind of barrier. And, I'm also willing to look at other options with other trees that could still give us fall color, and that wouldn't be an issue. Okay. As far as the boulders go, it's an NDOT requirement. They want that height. I don't think that's negotiable with them. From what I understand, they want 8 feet in the center. That's what we were told. So, yeah.
So have you asked them for the data on which they want the height? I mean, I think the reason I'm raising this is we are continually told, well, that's a TARPA requirement. We can't do anything about it. That's this requirement or that requirement. And I just think those of us who have gone around lots of roundabouts, which are probably everyone in this room, I don't think we've seen those many places. I'd be curious. Now, maybe they've done studies. It would just be interesting to ask for it. Is
Sure.
what I'm suggesting.
Absolutely.
It would help us like really, I mean, I'm in favor of improvement and safety improvements. So I don't want to say I'm not, but I just think it would help all of us get our heads around that.
Sure, I understand. And one of the things I think that's important to consider is the location of the roundabout. Because there are roundabouts all over the world and we're in Europe before they were here. But this particular roundabout is a major thoroughfare, 431. And people come down that road very fast. And of course, we have accidents, right? So being in the position of this roundabout where it's located, I think is conducive to the height requirements, is my guess on this. Because, you know, we have roundabouts inside of towns like we have in Kings Beach, and that's a whole different ballgame. So I think that probably because of the location of this roundabout, that height requirement may be addressing that, but we can certainly ask. Yeah, yeah, of course, absolutely.
I was gonna say one more thing on the state. We did engage NDOT very early on here. And they have been, I think they gave us 3 things, and one of them was that 8 foot. Yeah, if you can hear me okay, Mike LaFrancois. But I wouldn't be surprised if it changes. You know, we're working with different folks over there who aren't communicating internally, so it's part of the reason we're having a challenge. And they asked that we come to them with a schematic design as our next step, which is what we're working on right now.
We just know in governments, you know, different people change. Like the National Forest Service used to start fires burning back. Now they're changing that. We know, I mean, lots of changes happen. So I just would hate us to be the experiment if it's.
Well, yeah, we're at the stage now where we're putting together documents so they can give us something to comment on, because they were challenged to even do that up to this point.
Roxana Dunn, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. Regarding the boulders, one of the advantages of a roundabout is it eliminates head-on collisions because you tend to hit sideways. I hope that in the design, particularly coming down 431, that we're not introducing a head-on with a boulder. So I'd like them turned slightly. I hit ice coming down 431 one time and slid right out into the roundabout. So that could happen. Anyway, no head-ons. Second is roundabouts are usually not great for pedestrians. I don't think we have many pedestrians at this particular intersection, so maybe this is a non-issue, but is there any consideration for that in the design going forward?
Mike LaFrancois, there is no crosswalks to the middle of the roundabout right now.
No, not to the middle of it.
There are pathways around the perimeter.
Huh?
There are pathways around the perimeter, but I don't believe they connect to anything. So if you can get there, there are pathways, and it may be designed maybe for bicycles. Like there was this early theory of bicyclists approach a roundabout, and if you're not comfortable riding through the roundabout, you can ride on the sidewalk and get back on the other side. So in practice, I don't know who's using these pathways.
So what I'm talking about is pedestrian crossings that are somewhat offset from the roundabout that cross the street.
You just have to.
So at some point in the future, I can foresee people, particularly if anything happens with the mobility hub and people are going up and down the street, there may be some people going. But anyway, I'll just throw that in as a consideration. And my last question is, who's paying for this?
Good question.
We're looking at grants from the state of Nevada through Main Street and also private donations.
Okay, great. All right, that's all I had. Anyone else on the board here?
I got a funny.
Okay, Chris.
More than anything, a couple years ago, I was in a foreign country. I was driving around, and I was thinking of Linda when I saw these roundabouts, if you can believe that. I'm in a foreign country thinking of you in these roundabouts. And I saw this one that was a massive block with some general on top of it. And I thought, I took a picture of it if you ever want it, but I decided you weren't gonna go for it.
I would not vote for a
Chris would.
general.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, all right, any more questions from the board? And Mark, you don't have one? All right, in the room then. You need to stand up, give us your name.
Hi, I'm Miles Reiner. And in the interest of full disclosure, I've talked a little bit about this with Linda. I don't think she likes it, but I'll give it to you anyway. I sort of felt like there was something missing in this whole concept of just dealing with the roundabout by itself. And my thought was that there really ought to be a theme that carries through from the roundabout to the rest of Incline, to kind of pull Incline together under a single theme. And the theme I thought about was Incline Village. It's not just a village, it's a lifestyle. And the thing that to me is the most pertinent part of the lifestyle of Incline Village in Crystal Bay is all the activities and sports that are crammed into such a small community. It really is unique about Incline. I mean, we've got skiing and we've got golf and we've got boating and we've got, the whole realm of all the things that people like to do and come here and live here intentionally to take advantage of. And so I thought it was important to try to carry what people see as they come into Incline all the way through. And what I thought about initially was to have silhouettes of various different types of sports activities, skiing, golfing, swimming, boating, whatever, made out of life-size iron silhouettes, made out of thick steel, maybe dark brown in color. And to put those along, well, initially I thought, well, let's just put them around the inside of the roundabout. Now, this is far too many, but the idea is like this. Actual silhouettes, these are not cut out very well, but they would go inside the roundabout. Then I realized that the problem with that was that cars would crash in there and knock them all down. But what's missing for the current design, which I think is very pretty, is something along the outside edges of the roundabout, which are pretty blank and not very pretty. I mean, not very entertaining. They're just, dusty bases with trees around them. So I thought we could take this kind of idea and put it along the three basic edges. I mean, there's that long part of Incline Boulevard, and there's coming down Mount Rose Highway, and then there's the other part that sort of ties in Mount Rose Highway to the part of the highway that goes into Crystal Bay. And then these kind of images could be along the outside of the road and spaced at a fairly good interval, like 10 or 15.
Sir, your time is up.
We need you to wrap up.
Oh, okay. And then throughout Incline, you could carry these kinds of images. And at the places where, for example, you have boating or you have the ski center, you can have like really tall images at the entrances to these venues. Anyway, that was a thought. So there you go.
Thank you. All right, this is Elise, I'm gonna guess.
Hi, Elise Pat. Yes,
beautiful design. And I was thinking the same thing, that the roundabout's beautiful and there's a lot of rock that's going around the edges. It's great. We're focusing on this. And I think though that a lot of the same ideas that are here with this landscaping could be just repeated in a much more spread and minimal, amount on the sides to tie in with the roundabout and soften up, the areas around that you're concerned about. I'm a sports person as well. I love the sports here. That's one of the things, reason I'm here. But I find that the images sometimes can be really distracting for drivers. So yeah. But the other thing that I wanted to point out, and I don't know who this was or who did it, but I understand that there were people that donated some of the smaller animals that were in there, that there are a lot of them. And we have all that extra area around. And I think some of them have already been moved to some of the areas around now. Oh, okay. That maybe some of those could be moved, because I just feel for the people who donated for those. And that there is a lot of extra area around there where they could be distributed and have some of the flowers go, around them. There's certainly places to spread them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I speak to those animals?
Yes.
Because they've thought about that. And the library has plans to build a park, a sensory park, an educational park between this library and the old library. And they would love to have those small animals that would be there, along with their sensory park kind of thing. So that has been well received by everybody I've talked with. So we're going to hopefully get behind that park and make sure that happens.
Okay.
A little bit more than on the concept, and Miles, you're right. The whole idea of having symbols that carry through the rest of the town is very much something that we want. I think what our vision of that was that this is a recreational area. That's why people come. So those iconic boulders, the beautiful perennials that are actually, they don't show up as well, but they do surround the outside of the roundabout. The natural beauty and of the iconic boulders are really what symbolizes our town. That Public Art Committee is very much addressing that whole concept of what is our identity. And we've identified a number of symbols, and for sure, all of the sports is very much one of those things.
All right, thank you. Helen?
Hey, Helen F., Incline Village resident. Thank you, Linda and IBCBA. I also think that the design is beautiful. And I also think whoever's the contact with NDOT should get a raise. They're probably a volunteer, but they should get a raise. I just did a Google on height requirements because I am sensitive to what Diane said about obstructing the vision. And there's stuff online about NDOT requirements, which is contrary to that. So maybe it's old information, but I don't want to see all this effort done and then NDOT saying, oh no, that doesn't work. The state of Oregon has a 4-inch requirement for roundabouts, 4 inches of height for safety. So NDOT might need to work on that a little bit. In terms of identity that you just brought up, I'm hoping that IVGIT is involved in that, since they have the recreation sites here. And if there is a branding program done for Incline Village, it probably should be coordinated with our recreation sites. But what I prepared to say, and I hope I have time, is I want to take this opportunity to once again, sorry folks, emphasize that a main street functioning as a state highway with a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit will never be truly safe and welcoming for pedestrians, cyclists, children, or seniors. At that speed, the risk of severe injury or death in a collision increases dramatically. I unfortunately have firsthand knowledge of being hit by a reckless driver in a crosswalk at State Route 28. So fast-moving traffic creates a hostile environment, discouraging walking, biking. It limits options for local businesses and discourages community building opportunities. A main street should be a place for people, not just cars. If we want a thriving, inclusive, and livable town center, we must rethink the role of State Route 28 within Incline Village. It means partnering with NDOT, again, that person should get a raise, to urgently lower speed limits, add pedestrian intervals to all the signals, narrow the traffic lanes, add protected lanes for e-bikes and bicycles. In summary, prioritize safety over how fast a vehicle can travel through our main street. I hope I did that in time.
Anyone else in the room? And I would like to get on. No one online? Alexandra, can you verify that? Because I'm not sure I'm seeing everybody all the time.
We have Pamela Straley.
Oh, okay. Pam Straley?
Yes, I'd just like to bring up the issue of that bear. Since I was there at the inauguration, when they dedicated the roundabout with all those statues or sculptures, and it was laughable. All you could see of that bear was its rump. And I found it a distraction to drive around the roundabout to try and figure out what the animal was, to find its head. So I totally understand the artist had something in mind. I guess it was Linda who mentioned finally finding the fish in its mouth. I think that also should be moved to the library. And then there's the other thought that in Incline, all we do is talk about avoiding bears in the community, and then we put a statue in a roundabout. And I love bears, so I'd rather have them in the community, but that bear is just not. It may be if you change its position so you can see its head and you know what it is. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Interesting comment. Rhonda Tyser?
Rhonda Tyser, I just have been working on the beautification of Incline for many, many years. And I think that the design is a real improvement over the one that we had with all of the flowers in it. But I'm trying to imagine what it will look like when the leaves fall off the aspen, and I don't like that image. I'm wondering if it's absolutely critical that we put fall color on there, because you will have the leaves falling and you will have the bare branches for those 6 months or whatever it is. So that's the only image that I am having problems with. The rest of it looks like a really, really good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Julian?
Yeah, thank you. This may come from left field, but I have a question about the height requirements, and also what happens in the case of an evacuation event, where is there ever an instance where you need to go through a roundabout? And is that factored into anything? And maybe that's a non-issue that you simply never go through a roundabout. But I'm thinking in terms of an evacuation event, is there ever a case where you'd need to go through the roundabout for emergency vehicles? And that's just a query. And I don't mean to throw a wrench into things. I think it's a perfectly lovely design. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I think we've covered all the questions on that. So thank you to Linda and her team for a very good presentation and an interesting topic. I hope you will stay around. I do have an update on the transportation plan that I don't think takes too long, and also some information on how to save $1,000 on your defensible space work. So if you're interested in $1,000, hang around. The next item is number 7, the neighborhood hub, and this is where we turned it over to Alexandra.
Thank you, Roxana. Good evening, Alexandra Wilson for the record. The update that I have today is
Alexandra?
we do have an. Hi, can you hear me?
All right,
Can
we'll
you
come
hear me?
back,
Yeah, we can hear you.
can we hear you?
Yes.
Oh,
Hello, can you guys hear me?
yes, we're there. Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm not sure. We're having some technical difficulties today. My update is that there is an opening on the Open Space and Parks Commission for anyone that wants to apply. In addition, there was a meeting that popped up today in regards to Incline Village regarding a nursery school. Anyone that's interested, please go to the Neighborhood Development Hub. It's called the Incline Village Nursery School Open Meeting. It will be occurring on June 26th at 6:30 p.m. at 924 Incline Way, Suite 1. For anyone who's interested, and those are the updates that I have.
Okay, great, thank you. Item 8 is to approve the minutes, and so we did submit the minutes for the, what month was that, April? April. And
I'll make a motion.
I
please,
second.
okay, we've had a motion second, all in favor?
The motion is to approve.
Aye, okay, on to number 9.
Aye.
Which is the board announcement. So I do have a couple. First of all, before I forget, next month's CAB meeting, we're having NV Energy come and do a presentation on the work that they're doing, particularly related to fire safety. And I have seen this presentation, and it is both alarming and reassuring at the same time. So you can see some of the things that look like they're really going to help, and a few things that maybe we still need to get some help with. So I recommend that. All right, Alexandra, can you put up my slide for?
Sandra, real quick,
Yeah.
did we approve the minutes?
Yes, we did. Did I not say we approved the
Yeah,
minutes?
roll call.
That's what I'm supposed to do?
You don't add call for, wait, now you just call first to vote.
I called for a vote. I called for a vote. Okay, sort of went, but anyway, okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. All right,
Salmon and green.
okay, and I specifically made it over to the, if you can put it on slideshow.
Help.
You're hired.
There we go. Okay. So in January, we had a meeting where we sort of prioritized what we wanted to see in the transportation plan. And what we suggested are the things that are listed in the rows that you can see on the left. We put a lot of emphasis on doing some improvements regarding safety on SR 28. We also brought up the e-bikes. And we did not talk about safe streets for all designs, but I put it in there because Helen and I have both talked to them about incorporating some of that. Dave Solaro gave me an email with an update. I asked him, you know, what's actually happening this year. And so that is the columns, what's being addressed in 2025. And so the X's indicate where what's being addressed and what we asked for coincide. And as you can see, the emphasis is on e-bikes and the multi-use paths. So we discussed that quite a bit already, but I'll just mention that there's a stakeholders regroup. Go to the next slide real quickly. Go to the next slide, third slide. So the stakeholders up in the blueprint at the top, the Forest Service, Nevada State Parks, Douglas County, South Lake Tahoe, yada, yada. You can read those. Those are all the people who are involved in this discussions about what they can and cannot do. They are also inviting the bicycle shops to participate in that. Okay, go back to the chart slide, back to. Okay. Then the next several things are just information and education, things that they're doing. So they'll be putting little QR code symbols in some of the restaurants and breweries that connect you to information about trail etiquette. So trying to get people who are drinking beer to recognize that, I guess. There will be some sandwich board messaging and the chalk trail etiquette on paved paths. I'm not quite sure what chalk trail means, but I guess they put little messages on the path itself. more social media messaging, and possibly some education programs. I've been kind of pushing for that without much success, so hopefully they will be doing that. And then what's going to happen on Lakeshore is what's called sharrows, and I put a picture in there because you've probably seen these and weren't sure what they were. And that means this road is to be shared with bicycles. I don't think every driver knows that, though, so if you're riding a bicycle, keep your head up, you know. In any case, that's what's going to happen. And then I think Alexis mentioned the website, www.biketahoe.org, and the county parks, Washoe County Parks website also has information on etiquette. Now, Helen, leading pedestrian intervals, they're reviewing that with partner agencies. So they're going to have to, I guess, coordinate with like Kings Beach and some of the others.
Just NDOT.
Just NDOT, okay.
Swing real quick.
I'm going to let you. I don't know what the protocol is, but in the interest of information.
It's in all the Vision Zero, Helena. It's in all the Vision Zero plans. It costs less than $5,000 per traffic signal.
Okay.
All it does is adjust the signal so that if somebody presses the button to walk, no traffic goes.
Right.
And you can walk. No traffic in any direction. If nobody presses the button, the traffic just flows normally. So it's only would slow things a bit in the summer when people are walking or walking weather.
So they're going to discuss it. I hope it's more than when you go to dad because you know he's soft and he says, let me talk to your mother. And then mother says no. So we'll see. And then also, here's another one. They are applying for a Safe Streets grant. So I don't know where that will lead, if they will get it or not, but that's another thing that we've been kind of asking for. So there's a lot of blank spaces on this, but I think considering how much grousing we have done over the last year or two about e-bikes, et cetera, that they definitely have put a lot of emphasis on that. And we'll just keep at them on SR 28 and try to improve that. One more thing that's sort of related to Main Street, not to the roundabout, but we are never going to have a walkable, bikeable corridor through there until we eliminate driveways. There are, if you ride your bicycle from the roundabout to Country Club and back, you have 39 opportunities to be killed by either intersections or driveways. We have to do something, and I think I would like to see it done as soon as possible, because every new building or revised building that goes up is a 50-year lost opportunity of ever addressing this. And what we need to do to eliminate driveways is to put parking in the back, put an alley that the cars go through down the back. But even before we do that, if we just put the building up front and the parking in the back, even with a driveway, that gives you the possibility of eliminating that driveway in the future. And I point to the grocery store that was built a couple of years ago. Parking, they do have parking in the back, but they also have parking in the front. So we need to move that up to the street. Then you can put in a bike lane, pedestrian lane, make the bike lane so it can be an extra lane for evacuation. Some good things like that.
Did eliminate one driveway.
Yes, they did. Thank you. Okay, 38 opportunities to die. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up. And Alexis, I particularly wanted to bring it up with you because I think we need to understand how to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda, when I talked with her about it, said it was a area plan change. Is that correct?
And do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Alexis Hill for the record. What we found with the area plan and some updates that need to be done is that we don't have anywhere in county code, even in Incline, to allow for live work units even. So and there is different setbacks for home versus commercial. And we've even had to reevaluate because we have such an old code on how that would look. So that is something the staff are looking at, but the driveway issue is something that I did not know. I'm gonna bringing that up to staff because they are bringing us amendments this year to the area plan. So this is the time to do it.
So is that Dave Solaro?
That's Dave, poor Dave.
Okay.
One more thing, add it to his list.
Well, good old Dave.
Yeah, I'll follow up with him.
He was very responsive in getting back to me on
Thank you. That's
all
great.
these updates. And I think that this is an important thing to do. When we give inputs, we need to have another meeting where we explain what happened. Even when it's a lot of blank cells, we understand that, but we need to keep that loop going closed. Okay, ta-da.
Roxanne, is that on the CAB website?
This is on the CAB's website, Alexandra. You can put it there, right?
It will be after the meeting.
Okay, great. Oh, $1,000. Okay. In April, we had the meeting where they talked about defensible space and stuff. And since I'm one of the chief complainers about wildfire danger and whatever, I thought I really need to be a good example for defensible space. So I called my inspector guy. And this is the number that you call to do a walkthrough. They had sent me a report before, but I was never available when they were doing it. So I did it where we could walk together. And he was extremely helpful on telling me what needed to be done and gave me a reference to a crew who has since come out and done a lot of the work for me. Now, what I learned there that I did not learn in our April meeting was there is a program where they will pay, and they is the NLT FPD, North Lake Tahoe Fire, 50% of the cost of your defensible space work up to a maximum of $1,000. So if you do it $2,000, it's half. Mine was about $3,000, and so I'm getting about a third of it back. That's a big incentive. It lasts until the funds run out, and the deadline is April 15th, 2025.
October 15th.
Thank you, October 15th, 2025. And please don't get yours in before I get mine in. But anyway, I'm almost done. But I think this is a big incentive. And if you have, major work that requires a crew to come out, it's worth looking into. And so the way you start is you go to 775-833, et cetera. It's a one-time deal. So I asked, can I do $2,000 this year and $2,000 next year? And no, you can't do that. It's a one-time thing. So if you do have some major work, call them up. Let's make our community as safe as possible. All right, that's all I have. Any other board members with announcements? Diane?
So we've been advised that probably on July 15th, the 2025 Tahoe Area Plan Amendment will go for the first reading before the board. At our meetings, we have expressed extreme concern about the impact of some of the TARPA mandated requirements that the county is going along with. I wrote a very extensive brief to the county. Roxana wrote a very extensive brief to the county about how the specific language of both TARPA's regular code of ordinance and also even this document that they've mandated says that if a county has specific requirements and specific reasons for not following their directions, that you can petition them. I think that as a community, for those people who are reading what the problems are and what the incredible density increases are going to be, we should be telling our county, we want you to push harder, and we'll see what the county will do. I'm going to ask Roxana and Alexandra to put online what we submitted to them.
Okay.
Because and the county staff were very lovely. They found a lot of our arguments persuasive, and they did present them, but TARPA said no. TARPA to me is somewhat of a paper tiger. They don't have the funds that they're going to waste on actual lawsuits. What they're going to do is threaten. Maybe they'll say we're going to hold up a little bit of development approvals for a while. that's the most they're gonna ever do. And for us, for the whole future of this community, I think it's something that at least you should be knowledgeable about. And you may read it and say, we support all of the proposed changes and don't do anything. But for those of you who are concerned about some of the changes that TARP is putting in and whether their new definitions of workforce housing is going to give us what we need as a community, I think it's important for everyone to look at it. So we'd ask that you look at that. And then I think Julian mentioned that there's going to be some federal land that is coming up. And we will put up also on the website, I'll give it to Alexandra. If you want to write anything about it, we've got the lists of all of the different legislators who you could address your comments to. And I think there's lots of issues because there apparently is a lot of federal land in Nevada. And the question is, we'd certainly like a lot of that land, coming to the state and back to Nevada. But the question is, the land around Lake Tahoe, where we already have concerns about evacuation, to provide more land, especially above the 431, which we all know what's back there, to allow that to become land for development in the event of evacuation is something that we should at least all be thinking about and commenting on. So that's what I have to say.
Okay. Anyone else on the board have any general public comment then? Anyone else in the room or online have some other pearls of wisdom you would like to share? We don't have anyone in the room. Alexandra, anyone online? They all went home?
Nobody online.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, Elise? Elise, you need to come up to the podium. Thank you.
Elise, I believe that if you want to have an easy way to get a hold of the various, the senators, I think you can go to Sierra Club and they have an easy way to comment about the land in the Tahoe Basin, saying that we don't support the selling of this land. I think that's one of the places. Do you have any other suggestions?
Well, actually, we've got the email addresses that you go into each of the legislators. And if you go into each of them, then their staffs will tell them.
Okay.
People don't go in, as opposed to kind of being, and I think going to the Sierra Club too is a great idea, but to go into each of the legislators, that might be a little persuasive.
Okay.
At least that's what some people are saying. I don't know.
Thank you. I think that's it. So we are ready for a motion to adjourn.
Roxana,
Yes.
I apologize. I have Kathy Julian online.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I have a question. I just wanted to know, what is the date where the TARPA housing amendments are supposed to be considered? Was that
July 15th, but it could be moved to mid-August if the calendar is too busy, but July 15th is what they're shooting.
Okay, and I would urge people in this community to do some research on this, because they are talking about height, density, and coverage, and they are, as Diane and Roxana has done, I've been very critical of these housing amendments because I do not believe that it will accomplish the workforce housing that we need here in this community. And I also believe that that this community does not understand the height, density, and coverage that is planned and could happen, and what the impact of that will be, especially on the Route 28 corridor, and what that could possibly do to the displacement of our small businesses in complexes, older complexes such as Christmas Tree Village and the development near the theater and along that area, as it becomes profitable to develop properties into high-end condos that can be used for attainable housing or achievable housing, which doesn't have a price cap either on rental expense or on sales price, so that this could end up being very expensive housing, density, high, 4 or 5 story condos along that stretch of road. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. One more try.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, okay.
Seconded.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.